I'm so glad you chose to be here once again. Just like last time, I want you to find a comfortable spot. Maybe take a deep breath and just give yourself credit for showing up. This work isn't easy, but it is the most important thing we can do. There's a certain type of woman you might have met, or perhaps even recognized in the mirror. She's the one who seems to float through life, forever young at heart. She's charming, full of life, and brings a sense of excitement wherever she goes. But beneath this sparkling surface, there's a deep-seated fragility. She lives as if her real life hasn't started yet, always preparing for a grand event that never seems to arrive. She moves from one experience to the next, from one intense but short-lived relationship to another, never truly committing to anything. Her eyes hold a twinkle that masks a hidden sadness, the fear of growing up. This is the essence of the Puela Eterna, or the eternal girl. This powerful concept was identified by the famous psychologist Carl Jung as the female equivalent of the puer aeternus, the eternal youth. However, it was his close colleague, Marie-Louise von Franz, who really dug into the workings of this pattern. She described the woman caught in this archetype as living in a state of suspended animation. She resists the natural flow of time, refusing to step into maturity. On the outside, she is all about being light and fun, but on the inside, she is terrified of responsibility, of making commitments, and of facing the real world. She avoids growing up because growing up is hard. It means facing your own shortcomings, making choices you can't undo, and letting go of childhood fantasies. The Puela prefers to stay afloat, keeping all her options open. She dreams of a perfect, idealized love, but shies away from true intimacy. She craves freedom but doesn't want the self-reliance that comes with it. She lives on the excitement of promises, but fears the weight of actually having to follow through. You might be starting to see that this isn't just some abstract theory. This is the reality for many women who feel lost and don't know why, even when they are admired by others. They wonder why they keep making the same mistakes, despite being smart and capable. They are experts at starting things, but have no idea how to see them through. A constant feeling of emptiness follows them, and they can't pinpoint where it's coming from. Jung, another important figure in psychology, talked about how a woman needs to connect with her animus, the masculine energy within her, to build a stronger sense of self and a better relationship with the world. But the Puela resists this. She doesn't want structure or stability. She wants to fly, and that is precisely why she so often finds herself falling. The eternal girl isn't just a phase or a personality quirk. It's a deep-seated pattern, a timeless archetype that exists in the collective unconscious of women. Marie-Louise von Franz was very clear that this woman's soul is trapped in a romanticized and ultimately unproductive version of youth. This state blocks her from becoming a fully realized individual, from truly flourishing. She is the woman of almost. She almost falls in love, she almost builds a life, she almost gives herself over to something meaningful. She thinks her freedom is in having no ties, but in reality, she's just running away from herself. At her core, she doesn't want to deal with the limitations that life inevitably presents. She dislikes routine, gets bored easily, and is scared of anything predictable because it threatens the magical world she has built for herself, a world where anything is possible as long as you never have to commit to one thing. Von Franz noted that the Puela is so captivated by her own image as a free spirit that any real commitment feels like a trap. For her, a passionate affair is safe as long as it remains a fantasy. A new project is exciting as long as it stays on the drawing board. Life is wonderful as long as it's something she dreams about, not something she actually has to live. The most painful part is that she is often admired for these qualities. People see her as brilliant, creative, and spontaneous. And while those things are true, they are only the surface. What most people don't see is the growing void of emptiness behind all the constant motion. The Puela is always too busy to notice that she's just going in circles, a wanderer in a land of nothingness. So where does this refusal to grow up come from? Why do so many modern women find themselves in this pattern? The Puela is often a product of a culture that glorifies youth and looks down on maturity. It's a culture that tells women their value is in being desirable, not in being wise, in being light and fun, not in having inner strength. Furthermore, the eternal girl is often a psychological response to unresolved childhood pain. Emotional wounds that were never healed can create an unconscious resistance to growing up. The hurt woman creates a charming personality as a way to survive, but over time, this mask becomes a cage. Within every woman, there are powerful psychological forces at play. Jung called these archetypes, universal patterns that shape our deepest experiences. For women, two of the most significant archetypes are the maiden and the great mother. Understanding the dynamic between these two is key to seeing why so many women get stuck in the illusion of eternal youth. The maiden represents purity, new beginnings, and the potential for great things to come. She is enchanting, dreamy, and full of life. In our youth, this archetype is essential. It pushes us to explore the world and seek out new experiences. The problem arises when the maiden continues to dominate into adulthood. When she doesn't make way for other parts of the psyche to emerge, she becomes a roadblock. She prevents the woman from maturing, from establishing her place in the world, and from taking ownership of her own life. The woman continues to see herself as full of potential, but never allows that potential to become reality. Marie-Louise von Franz wrote that a maiden who refuses to symbolically die cannot be reborn as a whole woman. This isn't about physical death, but about the death of the childish ego, the part of us that wants to live in a fantasy world, waiting to be rescued and rejecting the realities of life. This symbolic death is painful, but necessary. Only from it can the Great Mother archetype emerge. The Great Mother isn't just a doting caregiver. She is the queen of her own inner world. She is nurturing, sustaining, and transformative. Unlike the maiden who waits to be chosen, the Great Mother does the choosing. Unlike the maiden who wants to be admired, the Great Mother commands respect. She doesn't need to be charming because she is complete. She has deep roots and knows when to give, when to protect, and when to pull back. The woman who embodies this archetype no longer asks for permission to exist. She simply is, with presence and purpose. But reaching this stage requires a sacrifice. The maiden must give way for the queen to be born. And this is a transition the Puela Eterna fights with all her might. She clings to the reflection of her youth, to the promise of an idealized love, and to the illusion that time stands still. But time marches on, and when a woman ignores the call to mature, she begins to wither from the inside. The very archetype that once made her shine becomes a gilded cage. Do you feel that there is something more inside you, something stronger, deeper, and more authentic? You're right. That something is your inner queen, waiting for you to stop running and start reigning. The Puela is seductive. She's creative, impulsive, and always has a new idea or a passionate new plan. But this energy can't hold up under the weight of the real world. She burns brightly for a moment and then fizzles out because, deep down, she doesn't want to sustain anything. In relationships, this is a recipe for disaster. The Puela wants love, but she doesn't want the commitment that comes with it. She builds up an idealized image of the perfect partner, but as soon as the other person shows their human flaws, she pulls away. She'll say the magic is gone, but the truth is, the magic was never real. It was a projection of what she was missing within herself, stability and emotional depth. In her career, the same pattern of sabotage plays out. The Puela is always searching for a job that feels meaningful and perfectly aligned with her true self. She has a hard time with routine, discipline, and the consistent effort that real success requires. She starts projects with great excitement but drops them as soon as they become boring or difficult. She tells herself she's just being selective, but really, she's fleeing from the inevitable challenges that come with any real pursuit. This woman often has big ideas and talks a big game, but has little to show for it in the real world. Her rational, organizing mind is still immature, so her grand visions remain just talk. Then there are the choices, or rather, the lack of them. The Puela is terrified of making a final decision, because choosing one path means giving up all the others. It means closing doors and leaving parts of herself behind, which feels unbearable. So, she lives in a perpetual state of maybe. This maybe keeps her in a state of suspension, where nothing can ever truly grow, because nothing has ever been truly planted. What she doesn't understand is that true freedom isn't about being able to escape everything. It's about having the strength to stay, to build, and to sustain your own life. Behind all this instability lies a hidden pain, a psychic wound that the Puela tries to cover up with constant motion and new distractions. The Puela Eterna is enchanting with her lightness and spontaneity, but behind the shine, there's a pain she can't name. She lives with the unconscious fantasy that if she is just lovely enough, someone stronger will come and save her. She doesn't admit this, but her actions give her away. Her constant passivity, her fear of upsetting others, and her desperate need for approval all point to a woman waiting to be rescued. When a real person enters her life, with all their imperfections, she is deeply disappointed because reality can never live up to her fantasy. This starts the cycle of escape and disillusionment all over again. Often, this archetype develops narcissistic tendencies. The Puela becomes obsessed with herself and her image. The world exists only to reflect her beauty and sensitivity. When others fail to do this, she reacts with anger or coldness. This self-absorption makes it impossible for her to truly see the suffering of others. Another thing that terrifies her is time. The idea of aging is unbearable because her identity is so tied to youthful beauty. When the signs of aging appear, her fantasy world begins to crumble, and she enters a crisis. The problem was never time itself, but the fact that she never built a solid, mature foundation within herself. Breaking free from this archetype is not easy. It's a difficult journey that requires a direct confrontation with everything she fears. It starts the moment a woman recognizes the repeating cycle of shallow relationships, abandoned dreams, and a chronic feeling of emptiness. This is when the path to becoming a whole person, what Jung called individuation, begins. It means she needs to stop running from herself and commit to the process of maturing, even though it will be painful. This means changing her relationship with time. Aging is not the end of freedom, it is the beginning of true freedom. It's when a woman stops needing external approval and starts living authentically. Maturing is learning to choose, to sustain, and to remain. It is taking charge of her own life and understanding that being a woman is not about being light and airy, but about being whole. True healing begins when she commits to something greater than her own fantasies, a job, a relationship, a creative project. Committing means planting her feet on the ground and saying, "I am here and I accept the consequences." This requires her to pause and look at her life with brutal honesty. It doesn't mean she has to lose her sensitivity or kill the maiden within her. It means integrating that part of herself with the wiser, more mature parts of her psyche. It means becoming the author of her own story, not just a character in it. And paradoxically, when she stops chasing an idealized love, that is when she begins to be truly loved, because she is finally showing the world who she really is, without masks or performances. The woman who emerges from this process is not perfect, but she is whole. She leads her own life, supports herself, and is committed to her own journey. And unlike the maiden, she no longer waits for a happy ending. She creates her own. This journey isn't about achieving perfection, but about embracing your true self. It's about finding your way back home to who you are, stepping out of any limitations, and finally recognizing the warmth and light of your own inherent worth. You deserve this. You always have. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, please like this video and subscribe to stay updated. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Until next time,